Morning. It's Tuesday, 2nd of April. Not quite sure why I'm telling you that. Makes no real difference. Today on the vlog, it's a difficult one today. It's more about something that I know a lot of creatives struggle with, and something that I know I have struggled with in the past and probably more than likely will continue to struggle. And I'm playing with duct tape because when I get nervous about stuff I tend to fidget and have things in my hand. And yeah, this one's is a hard one. It's a difficult one to talk about. But the reason I want to talk about it today, before I go back to happy videos and posts and stuff in the next couple of days, is that there's a couple of creative friends I know who have struggled with this in the last few days, last week or so. And I think it's something that everybody creatively has an issue with. Now, to be fair, I don't think that's actually just for creatives. I think everybody struggles with this. I'll focus on the creative aspect of this and how it affects creatives because that's what the channel's about. But if you're watching this and you're not a creative, you're not a photographer, then doesn't mean that I don't think it applies to you. I just don't, my channel is mainly for creatives and stuff, so yeah. Everybody creatively burns out after a while and goes on what I call the creative roller coaster. There's loads and loads of different terms for this. I don't think I've nicked the creative roller coaster term anywhere, but it kind of sums up how it works for me. So what happens is, as a creative, as a professional creative, whether it's a photographer or artist or whatever, what happens sometimes is you get these massive highs, like huge highs, and you feel on top of the world and everything's going great, and everybody's cheering you on and it's brilliant. And then inevitably, like any roller coaster, once you've gone up, you've got to come down, and that feeling of rushing down and bottoming out and your stomach going from underneath you is inevitable. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes you can have these massive highs and a bump's coming, you're going to go through a down bit, but that's okay and that's normal, and you kind of ride it out and lots of other things happen and it's fine. Sometimes it will hit you really hard. A couple of weeks ago, I had one hit me really hard when in reality it shouldn't have done. I was right in the middle of a load of commercial work, and yeah, I just woke up in the morning and felt like not that I couldn't do what I had to do or anything like that. I just felt like I had that imposter syndrome thing where I didn't really feel like I kind of deserved to be doing what I was doing, and it all felt very wrong, and it was just, I was in a down, I'd come off that massive high of some recent things, and it hit me hard, and I had to just kind of pick up the pieces, crack on and get the job done. And I was grateful that day that I had a colleague with me, and that helped work things through. But yeah, it wasn't easy, and it was part of it. And I had one a couple of days ago, after Loughborough Lightning versus Wasps. Huge game, big day. I had loads of amazing access into players and behind the scenes stuff, and it was brilliant, and the game was really, really tense, and the atmosphere in the arena was just huge. That my heart was going, the adrenaline was absolutely buzzing. And then I had a couple of quiet days after, and it really felt like I was on this huge come down, where I really struggled for a few days. And it's difficult. The whole mental health thing is a tricky one, and lots of people will say you just need to crack on with it and all that kind of stuff. But I think as a creative, it's really important that you realise that, one, it's okay. It's all right to have highs and lows, and that's perfectly natural, and everybody does. And also to realise that it is going to come, and you need to kind of mentally prepare for it. And then when it does hit, you need to decide on what you think's the best thing to do. And Gary Vaynerchuk will talk about self-awareness and stuff. If you're not a fan of Gary, you've not checked Gary's stuff out on YouTube before, definitely worth a look. His stuff on self-awareness is very cool. But you need to be self-aware enough to know, I'm in a down, I'm struggling, I've come off that massive high, I've bottomed out, what do I do next? What do I need to do to get me through this? And it's always temporary. It never lasts very long. Could last half a day, could last an hour, could last, a couple of days at the worst. It's never particularly a long thing. But you've got to find what works for you. What works for me usually is, it's really important that I keep exercising and keep moving, working out, whether that's down the gym or out for a run, even if I don't feel like I want to, even if mentally I'm struggling, just helps to keep me a bit more balanced. It allows me some headspace, and that's quite important. The other thing I do every day is I write in a journal, and it's just usually in the morning over coffee, just brain dump whatever's in my head, just write it down. That helps me a lot. Eating and drinking well usually helps me quite a lot. I usually find if I've had a load of coffee, I really struggle the next day, so I have to be careful when I'm on something like a really big high, because in those work environments I can often just be like, oh yeah, I'll grab another coffee, or I'll get another coffee, and that's fine. But then when you hit that downward slope, then it can really kick in. But lots of people will question as to like why creatives get this, and I think very much that it's because you put your heart and your soul into stuff. And being a creative, being a professional artist, photographer, whatever it might be, you're putting you out there. It's a very vulnerable place to be. I'll post a bunch of images up after an event or a netball match or a race or whatever it might be, and that puts you in a very vulnerable place, because what if people don't like it? What if people do like it? What if it doesn't go down as well as you thought it would do? What if people don't think it's the quality of your work is as good as it was last time? You have all that internal struggle, and that puts you in a very vulnerable place, and that's quite hard for some people to do. And then if you do get criticism, that's hard for some people to take, because they think it's a personal attack on them, and it isn't, and blah 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 blah. But just understand that creative roller coaster is natural, and it does ebb and flow. I would love to sit here and say that being a professional creative, being a professional photographer is all linear, but it isn't. It's very up and down, where you'll have these massive highs and it's brilliant, and you're working on these big stages, and you're around some incredible people, and you're doing these awesome days back to back, and it's brilliant. And then those downs will come, and you go back to reality with a bump. I remember last year at World Triathlon Series Leeds, had this amazing day, images went out flying, buzzing. Monday morning my images were all over the place and getting used by like winners and stuff like that, and it was wicked. And after a day or two, I was back hanging out on the washing line, and you hit back down with a bump sometimes, and some days those bumps are hard and sometimes those bumps aren't, and you've just got to understand that it's fine, and you need to then go back into self-care mode when you hit that down bit, whether that's sitting on the sofa and reading, whether that's sleeping, whether that's working out, whether that's writing in a journal, whether that's going having a few drinks with some friends and kind of letting your hair down a little bit. That self-care is really important at that stage, because that's what then gets you through, and they never last very long. In my experience, I've never had one that lasts more than a day or two, and sometimes you need to just give your head a shake and realise that things are okay and get back out there, and sometimes you just need to hunker down for a few days and let it ride out, and it will do. But the important thing is to not stop. And I don't mean that in regards to you have this massive high, you don't go onto this big come down, and you just should keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. What I mean by that is that when you have these big highs and you've got these amazing experiences, when you then inevitably hit a down that really feels like makes you feel like you're struggling, just don't then give up on everything. Just ride it out for a few days. Let that down feeling, let that kind of that inevitable crash, let that happen, ride it out, and then once everything starts to feel a bit better, then start again. There's that famous quote of it's important to learn to rest rather than stop, and that's really important. Sometimes after these really busy spells and all that kind of stuff, you've bottom out hard, and it hurts, and you don't get the kind of feedback that you want, and you've all had these like amazing interactions with people because of all the work you're doing, and then it goes very quiet and you feel a little bit lost and a little bit left. And just write it out and let the momentum then pick back up again. But if you stop and go, I'm not going to do this anymore because it hasn't gone to plan, then you'll be losing, and you don't need to do that. And the world needs your work out there as a creative, and that's really important. You're influencing way more people than you realise you are. So yeah, create Rollercoaster, and ebbs and flows and burnouts and stuff, and it's that part of creativity, it's that part of being a professional creative, working as a full-time photographer or artist or whatever, that we often don't talk about. What we tend to see, the result of it is, when that superstar commits suicide because they're in a really, really bad place, and you look at it and go, oh well, they've just come off the back of this huge tour, or they've just done this amazing piece of work, and what happens is they've been on this huge high, they're already quite fragile anyway, they then get back, all that adrenaline just leaves their body and their mind, and they just feel like there's nothing left. And 4 or 5 years ago, I could honestly sit here and say, hand on heart, I didn't understand where that comes from. But now I totally get it. It doesn't make it right, don't get me wrong, and if you're ever in that place, please go and talk to somebody and seek help. But I get it. I get where it comes from. So just learn to ride these down periods out. They happen, it's natural, you have to learn sometimes to expect them. Mine have come from purely on the fact that I'm absolutely shattered, because March has just been relentless. If I haven't been shooting, I've been working and editing behind the scenes. If I've not been editing behind the scenes, I've been at meetings. If I've not been at meetings, I've been all over the place trying to do stuff. And I will crash quite hard when I'm really tired. That big game, that big Wasps Loughborough game, which I came down hard from the other week, was very much largely part to the fact that I was exhausted, and I was tired, and I didn't have the energy then to keep going afterwards, and I bottomed out hard, and it really hurt. But a few days rest, collect your head, dial it down a little bit, and I was ready to go again. So yeah, it's normal, it's natural, it happens to everybody. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Find someone close to you, find someone that you can kind of unload to, and kind of get those thoughts off your chest, and start again and realise it's okay, it's all part of the process. I've got another video coming later this week, probably at the weekend, for something a little bit special. So we'll be back to all fun and games and nice things and exciting things. So yeah, tune in this weekend, because I haven't recorded it yet. I'll probably say this now and I won't record it, but I haven't recorded it yet. But if what I do is, when I do record it, it will be probably going live on Sunday, which is quite an important day, and I'll explain all that a bit later. But don't see you before, please come and say hello. If you haven't subscribed already, hit subscribe, because it does mean a lot, and it means you keep up to date with all the new stuff that's coming out. And I will see you at the weekend.